therapist and I talked about this need for belonging and how, especially like maybe in high school, and I should get a tissue. So we talked about how in high school, especially, I moved between junior and sophomore and junior year. And so I came into pretty established friend groups, and add to that I was raised in high control religion, is the phrase I prefer to use. I wasn't allowed to play sports. I wasn't allowed to go to friends' houses after school. I did sometimes anyway, but I would typically have to lie or come up with some really important project that had to be done at a friend's house, just to have any sort of like social life with worldly kids. So I didn't really fit in fully. I wasn't bullied. And if anything, I put off this maybe like a bit snobby, or I don't know. I don't even know how I just hung out with my one best friend. I feel like her and I just started to get to know more mid to end of junior year, coming into senior year. But I was always kind of like the friend of the friend on the slightly outside circle, and I didn't really care, I guess. Like I don't really think I cared. I don't know. My senior year I had a boyfriend, and he was, I mean, I think maybe in the same popularity space. Like he was kind of like, I don't know, like popular adjacent. Is that a phrase? I thought he was really cool. I thought he was really great. But I was always, just kind of like on the perimeter. And then, it was like this double life kind of thing, which in the religion is like this very shamed persona. But then like I'd go to the church and I'd hang out with those friends, and I wasn't really in the church either. So I was also like on the outskirts. Like it was just a weird time. It's a weird time in my life. And I was disfellowshipped. Which I think at this point I have talked about that. Disfellowshipping is shunning. They don't like that now. They don't like that people say things like that about it. And I think they're like actively, very quickly changing a lot of their rules to make it a bit more palatable that this is like a practice that goes on. I was shunned. I don't care if the language around that has changed now. 20 years later, I don't care. Like, I know how I navigated being publicly humiliated in front of my family and all of our family friends. It's pretty damaging. It creates a lot of shame, and that carries on into life for a long time, even after you don't subscribe to the religious beliefs. The damage is still pretty deep. It definitely creates a narrative around not belonging. Apparently that has rippled through into a lot of parts of my adult life. I've had tough friendships. I've made friends with people who, aren't the most quality friends. I've invested a lot into friend circles that always kind of put me on the outsides. And that started to really shake up my belonging again. My divorce was a pretty big hit in terms of my friend circle. My ex-husband and I had made a ton of friends together. We had, his friends and my friends, and I felt like we really did a great job, like, intertwining our friends. Yeah, that shook up a lot of my social stability. Friendships all changed and shifted a lot after that with my own friends. A lot of them were starting to be established in their relationships. Lots of them were getting married, and it almost becomes this, like, I don't know, this was my perception of it. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. I felt like I almost had this like disease, which was divorce. And none of my girlfriends wanted to catch it. And so I started to feel a lot of distance from my friends who were in serious relationships, especially my friends who were married. I felt like there was just this unspoken fear of that somehow transferring into their own relationship. And maybe that was my perception. Maybe it was another moment where I felt like I wasn't belonging. I don't know. But it was real for me. And those few years, like 2018 to 2020, like a lot changed, a lot shifted all at one time. And when I met my now ex, I think I definitely probably clung on to belonging and some illusion of stability with him, and didn't really test that one out much before fully committing. That was sort of the opposite with him. I feel like his friends weren't really, I didn't see a lot of value in the friendships that he valued. I didn't really understand a lot of the dynamics. I think even early on, he was friends with a lot of women, and there were a couple times where I felt like those women were pretty disrespectful of me and the relationship that we were building, and I didn't really understand why that seemed like good or appropriate or beneficial to our dynamic at all. And now I can pretty firmly say I agree with me that was clear indication of issue. But that didn't stop me from fully committing to that path. He moved to my apartment in the West Loop, the 1-year mark of me living there. By New Year's, we were talking about how I didn't really like it. By the spring, we were moving out of my apartment into his friend's cheaper apartment in Wicker. I really did my best. It wasn't my spot. It wasn't the spot I had, but it was fine. And then by October, we were moving where I didn't know anyone besides my very good friend, which, like, thank God for her. I spent a year there. We should have really been done after that. I sold most of my stuff. That was really like the beginning of the end, and I just couldn't let it end. Belonging, anxious attachment. Just so much toxicity. Like, the relationship was not good. There's so many examples of it being not good. Dozens. So many. I don't even care. It doesn't even matter. I couldn't let the relationship go. And I heard something today. I was watching this show, and it was about basically like when you start to invest, it's even harder, especially when you start to invest like time in like a span of years, and then investing your money, or you start to quote unquote lose money, whether it's through, whatever. Doesn't matter. It just becomes harder and harder to leave because it's like you don't want to like accept your losses. You're trying to like gain back your losses. And that is just such a like it's an illusion. It's an illusion. You're not going to. And if anything, you're going to continue to lose more time and money. Turns out. Yeah. But that sense of belonging is what kind of kept me. I couldn't let go of that, because if I let go of it, I'd have to really take a look at the loss I'd faced since my divorce, especially around my social circle and my friends. And I do believe like everything happens for a reason. The marriage I was in needed to end. I hope he's really super happy. I never intended for that relationship to fail. I never intended for that version of my life to go in a different direction, and it did, and it's okay, and I've accepted it, and I feel closure with it. I think I have like come to a space of acceptance around most of my quote-unquote failures. It does sometimes feel like, am I ever going to get a glimpse of the stability that I loved so much in my life before? Am I ever going to have a taste of that again? Am I ever going to feel any sort of like external success or accomplishment? And I try not to be attached to that, and I try to let it be okay if maybe that's just not the trajectory that I'm on anymore, and maybe, I'm giving my business until the end of the year. It's October, and if it's not improved in the next couple months, like I'm not going to renew contracts with my current clients, and I'm not totally sure what I'm going to do professionally And that's crazy. That feels really wild. I'm trying to be okay with that too. And most of the time I am. But sometimes I just wonder, like, what was the plan all along? Like, because I don't think it was to end up in a position where I'm, like, exchanging housing for services. I mean, that sounds sexual, and it's not at all. Although, we did just joke last night about how I'm basically like a stay-at-home wife. My host is a total badass and very professionally driven and wrote a book. She's doing the most, and I feel like I couldn't even imagine. So instead, like, I'm folding laundry and in between client calls, prepping lunch or dinner and helping her get out the door in the morning. And I really have, like, so much free time. There's a bulletin board right outside with her mailboxes, and I was like, oh, like, maybe I'll put up an ad to, like, walk dogs, and it'll get me out of the house, and maybe I could even, like, I don't know, like, make some friends. And what else have I got to do? Like, I have hours, and I would rather not scroll on TikTok, and I would love to get some exercise because I just feel like, there's a gym literally right here and I haven't went, and I just don't know how to get access to that part of myself anymore. Like, I don't know, I see her and I just feel like, how much worse does my life have to get before I put some hustle into my day? Like, but I can't, I don't even know how, like, which is so crazy because I used to just be, so I don't even know where did she go? Where is that part of me? I need her. I don't know. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I can't imagine that the plan was to end up walking dogs. Like, I can't imagine that is, like, the plan. I'm trying to trust in this whole process, but it feels like I'm on this ride that I don't remember getting on. I don't remember. I didn't want this. I liked my life. I liked it then. Yeah. And again, like, that's like this victim mindset that I really am trying to push through. Like, I have made decisions and choices that have brought me here. I have one after the next made decisions. Like, that is how I have ended up here. It didn't just, like, happen to me. These are my choices. These were my decisions and my choices that I'm still actively making. I'm still actively here. Considering putting a flyer up to walk dogs instead of putting 5 more hours a week into trying to generate leads. I just feel like I'd feel so stuck. I don't know what to do. Nothing seems to click. And I feel like I could probably do more, but I'm just tired. And I feel so discouraged that it just seems like, why? What's even the point? And I thought, yeah, it's just this never-ending thing. It's like I always think something's gonna come through and then it doesn't. And that process is just, I don't know. I make enough to just barely get by. And that's not sustainable anymore, and I can't. But then it's sort of like, okay, so if you're not, like, then what are you gonna do? Like, I don't know if anybody's just gonna hire me. Like, I guess I haven't really put much effort into that either. I don't know. Yeah. And now it's midnight. And I really need to go to bed. This is not healthy. There were some good things. In this last week, I hosted my first women's circle. That was great. I think we had like 14 or 18 register, and I was pretty stoked about that for the first one. And I feel like I didn't really do a ton marketing wise. I always feel like I could do more, but I just feel like there's no clear plan. There's barely any systems. I'm like, again, building with toothpicks, and there's just only so much I can do. I felt like I really got to hold a great space, and I was grateful for that, and I am still, and I hate the loop constantly of feeling like no one's gonna come anyway, so like, why do it? And that plays through in a way that I don't even understand that narrative. Like, I don't even understand that, because I feel like there's so many people in the world, and like, why can't I communicate in a way that attracts people? Like, what am I missing? What am I not authentic enough around that makes people feel like I have something valuable to share? Because I do feel like all I really want is a community of people who are like-minded. Like, I just want to lean into building that for myself in a way that's more aligned with my soul and not just my career, not just my industry. And I feel like I did it before and I would like to do it again. When I did it before, I felt like I really had to self-sacrifice. I had to constantly put this spotlight on all these other people just to get them to give support back to me. It always felt like this unfair exchange where I was giving more than I was ever really receiving, and I feel like I don't want to do it that way again. I can't. I don't even have the energy or the money. I mean, again, the amount of money I spent on that event to be able to it's an insane amount of money, and I don't have it anymore. So I can't even buy support that way. I can't even offer to pay speakers and sponsor different events, and I can't do that anymore. I don't have any access to that. So I don't know. This whole concept of trying to do it from a personal standpoint feels like if I don't do it successfully, does that make me a failure around my entire business model? Because I'm helping other people build their communities and I can't do it for myself without selling something. Like, I don't want that to be true. I would really love for that to not be true. I don't know. But I am going to an event on Friday here. I'm going to a networking event I got a ticket for. And then next week I'm going to this dinner that's like a pop-up dinner kind of. It's actually really cool. It's called Time Left, I think. It's like an app. And you can like pick like your date, and then you pick like co-ed or women. I picked women. And I think like in a couple days, I can't remember how they do it, but like every few days you get like another, first you'll find out where you're going, what restaurant, and then it's a little bit about the group, and then it's a topic that you can all ask each other, and they ask you a bunch of stuff like a dating profile kind of, but for just like your interests, and supposedly they like match you. So like me, and I think there's 4 people total. So the other women that would go are going to like match my interests in some way. Maybe one of them or a few of them. I don't know how they do it, but I'm doing that on Tuesday. So Friday's like a women's networking event, and then this dinner with these new women will be Tuesday. And then I'm actually meeting one of my clients that I've worked with. She's based in Vancouver. Her parents are from Vancouver. So I'm meeting her, I think, on Saturday. And then I think I'm going to this event, a panel for building brands as a female entrepreneur. And so I feel like, okay, I'm just going to keep putting myself in opportunity to meet like-minded women. And yeah, hopefully at some point I'll be able to build some form of community, even if it's not mine, even if it's not my own. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it will point me on my path that will make sense. Maybe I'll just be a hairstylist again. It's always there. Yeah, okay. Wish me luck putting up this video. Very cringy. Very uncomfortable. Probably will get 5 likes.